Good day, Kathy Mortensen with Equality Matters, Equality and Matter, where I talk about both the science and the religious or spiritual aspects of equality, which this concept is very important to me, both as a background in special education, but also in regards to humanity. We have a shared humanity that is getting farther and farther apart in this modern world today. And it's time for us to come back and start relating more with each other. This will be my last session on Give Us This Day Our Daily Bread for the focus of being, on what we're being. And here we're reaching out for the sustenance to live fully all of life in its wholeness. And Thursday was facing the wholeness of life for me. It was, I don't know if you know the book. It's a book for young children. It's called Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad Day. And he had a very bad day. Everything went wrong, and that's how last Thursday was for me. And as we talk about this part where we're nourishing the invisible threads within us, I'll be sharing some of those parts of my day about what I feel happy about that I've nourished and accomplished, and where I also find ways where I still need to grow. And some of the aspects of nourishing our invisible wealth is how to be present in the moment. So we had gone to Costco on Wednesday, and I love it's a plant-based detergent that I'm able to get there. And I bought it, and it comes in a great giant big container. And so I always like to put it into smaller containers. So while I was doing that, somehow I lost the lid to the smaller container. We looked everywhere, couldn't find it. I knew then it was going to be one of those terrible, horrible, very bad days. So I did my laundry, and it was time for a washer clean. And so I cleaned out the washer. You have to take these parts apart at the bottom and put them back in. And I went to go plan actually this video. And I'm working away, and my husband comes in and says, "What's going on?" There was water all over the kitchen, all over the laundry room, and it spread into our closet. Oh, how much fun it is to clean that up. Mopping, lid searching. Well, there's more to come. So as we talk about equality and our invisible wealth and visible wealth, I also want you to think about how we're strengthening ourselves for every transition in life. We face so many transitions. We get married, that's a transition. We have children, that's a transition. We get new jobs, that's a transition. We lose jobs, that's a transition. Children leave home, people die, spouses die, neighbors die. Every one of those is a transition. And so I want to plant that seed that we are asking for strength when we say this line of the prayer, that we acknowledge what's invisible in us and what more there is to develop inside to face the day and to learn to be present in the day. Right. Trying to switch the slide. There we go. And so I'm going to be focusing on this idea and relating this nourishment, give us this day our daily bread, to the idea of microbiome. And for those who aren't sure what microbiome is, it is a vast community of microorganisms, and it includes bacteria, viruses, fungi, other microbes. They live in and on our human body, and they live in other environments like the soil, in oceans, in plants. For us as a human being, our microbiome is concentrated in the gut. It's not all there. It also exists on our skin, in our mouth, and other bodily regions. And why this is important is because our microbiome is diverse. It is vast. It's not all the same. And in its diversity, it's what helps keep us healthy. It's so diverse, and they're still learning more and more about it. In fact, I read an article just this weekend about how they're linking our microbiome or gut health, possibly to even Parkinson's. So our gut microbiome plays a crucial role in digestion, nutrition absorption, and our metabolism. Our microbiome communicates with our immune system, and it has an influence on inflammation and helping us be resistant to disease. And guess what else? It also contributes to our mental health. It's called a gut-brain axis within our central nervous system. And our gut can affect our mood, this microbiome, our ability, what our cognition is, how we're processing mentally in our brain, and our behavior. When our microbiome is balanced, all of these different bacteria, viruses, fungi, microbes, there's so much to it. In fact, reading the book about the second brain and our gut health really explained how many brain neurons it's vast within our gut system. And when it's balanced, it aids us in digestion, as I said, it aids in our immune function and our hormone regulation. When it's imbalanced, things that can happen are autoimmune diseases, obesity, depression, and digestive disorders. And we know through the healthcare system that pro and prebiotics can help us keep our microbiome balanced and healthy. And the reason that I relate this today is because to be in this balanced, living, aligned state of being, when we say this line of the prayer, give us this day our daily bread, we're asking to integrate all of our wisdoms, our rational wisdom, our heart wisdom, and our instinctual wisdom, which some people call within the gut. Some people call it within our brain, the third eye. I think they're all connected. This is what helps us be our true self and be more authentic. When everything is balanced, that's when we can be authentic. Our thoughts are clear. We understand our emotions when they come up. And our instinct is grounded in our lived experience. We've lived long enough to know things will work out. And how this relates to our invisible health is our state of being. When it's balanced, it supports our clarity and our presence. Because, as I said, our thoughts are clear. Those emotions that come up. It was frustrating to lose the lid. And I was proud of myself because I've carried, and I love my mom, but I've carried this voice, this angry voice of my mom with me. And I'm sure I shared that angry voice with my kids as well, my poor kids. Um, and it wasn't as strong. It was barely there. We couldn't find the lid anywhere around the washers, under the washers, behind the washers. And I had only gone one other place. We searched the whole wherever, couldn't find the lid. Said, oh well, Cal was generous enough to find other lids that would fit, and when we emptied other containers, we would be able to use that container. So we said, we'll just wait. So instead of getting overwhelmed like I used to with losing the lid and coming unglued, oh my God, what have you done now? And saying all those terrible things about yourself, I was able to move on. And of course, then the washer overflowed, and we were able to deal with that. And and I know I'm going to get off topic here, but I just wanted to relate to how I'm relating this idea of microbiome to our equality, because the microbiome demonstrates this interdependent system. Kyle was able to help me out, look for the lid. He's able to come in the house and say, oh my God, before the water kept going even farther. We need to do something about this. And it's diverse, it's interdependent. We rely on each other through our diverse perspectives and our differences to come together and keep ourselves balanced. This microbiome, when we can view it through our strengths, it feeds us. It keeps us going. It's like we can look for the spirit, if you're a believer in the divine, in the matter, and also realize what life has to teach us about our own spirit. We strengthen both how we respond to life, and we strengthen our inside skills so that we better manage what's happening outside of us. Life is like a teacher. So my typical response to not putting the part in the washer all the way so the water wouldn't come out would have been, oh, Kathy, you're such a stupid idiot. You're so dumb. Look at what you did now. And I did not have that response that day. I gained more invisible wealth that I could say, this sometimes happens. I'm sure I'm not the only one who didn't tighten it tight enough and the water came pouring out. Invisible wealth. And so as we talk about the diversity, let's talk about how we can view emotions. Emotions are energy and they're energy, and they put things in motion for us. They can become triggers. So emotionally, I used to say and carry that voice in my head because I carried the voice, oh, I couldn't do anything right, rather than this voice of wisdom that's like, all human beings make mistakes. I was able to handle the external experience of losing the lid and having the washer overflow. So emotions come up instantly, and they can be reactive. Emotions, they're shaped by our conditioning, by our past, by our memory. And when we can strengthen, when we say this line and we strengthen what's our invisible wealth, we're strengthening our heart wisdom. Because our heart wisdom is a relational intelligence, how we relate to ourselves and using our heart to relate to others. It's this invisible capacity to pause and allow that emotion to come up and turn it from a reaction into a response. That's an invisible wealth. It comes with experience. It's not there when you're first born. You have an invisible, you're building your invisible capacity to feel what those emotions are and interpret the message. not through our past, but right in the present moment. It's an invisible wealth of learning discernment and how to connect in a more meaningful way rather than in a reactive way. So I was able to spend the 3 hours mopping up all of the floors, getting everything dry, putting a fan on the carpet in our closet so the carpet could dry. And it worked out. Our carpet's all dry. It was dry by, I think, Saturday, believe it or not. I was thrilled about that. And so I want to talk about the heart a little bit. When we're saying this line of the prayer, that we understand through science that our heart often receives energetic cues from others before the brain processes language or logic. Now, that doesn't mean if you see someone far away and you notice them and they have tattoos, and however you react to people with tattoos, that you're getting their heart energy first. I'm just saying often when you're coming together and meeting people, often the brain processes the heart energy, which is not a language. It's a different kind of energy. The heart has neurons on it, just like our brain is filled with neurons. And so our heart learns through experience of living life in this body. And it has a subtle attunement to these energies that we get from other people. And how we discern or interpret those energies depends on our internal state. And so after the washer incident, we were going to upgrade our trust. And so we were going to go meet with a paralegal. And they asked to bring the old trust, which I had done myself. It was done on handwritten forms. And typically my response would have been to have, especially after losing the cap, after spending 3 hours cleaning up water in the kitchen, when they said to me, "Oh my gosh, I have never, ever seen a handwritten trust before, ever in my life." My first, I know myself well. I would have said, "Oh my God, I did it wrong. I'm not good enough. What's wrong with me?" And you know what? Even after all that trauma, I was able to still stay regulated and laugh about it and say, well, I guess there's a first time for everything. I had a different response. I was able to maintain a state of connection, meaningful connection, and not take that comment personally, even after a terrible, horrible, very bad day. That doesn't mean I'm better than someone else, because I'm just planting a seed to be aware of how, in a state of trauma or stress, when you're truly stressed out or dysregulated, you're coming from a different state. And I'm glad Cal was with me so we could laugh and joke about it. But it's a reminder about how, through our state of being, how we interpret someone else's heart energy might not be accurate. When we're grounded and aware of ourselves, we want that to be a guide. And it can help us navigate our emotional waves. And guess what? None of us are going to be perfect after a day like that. It's okay if I had gone to her office and I was honest with her. I said, look, it's already been a horrible, bad day. She was able to joke about it, keep it lighthearted, and it went well. And I think because I said that, it also helped navigate the emotional waves. We were able to intuit healthy boundaries between us, and we were able to connect with compassion rather than defensiveness. even with her comment, because my typical reaction is defensive. So I'm going to leave you with a couple questions about this slide to think about. Heart wisdom, this invisible wealth, it holds space for complexity. Can you stay open in discomfort? Some days we can, some days we can't. Can I interpret this emotion signal with love rather than fear? The third question, what needs to be honored here within me and between us? Those are the invisible threads to think about that you're developing over time. When we talk about instinctual wisdom, instinct is primal and reflective. Our nervous system's first response, we have a response when we feel threatened or our safety is in question. That's important that we heed that and not always ignore that. Our body tells us when things might not be safe. And I've heard stories of people, it's documented, people are like, something told me not to get on that elevator, and then the elevator ended up being stuck. Even on 9/11, there was a story about someone who didn't get on the plane. They were, and I can't remember all the details, but I think it was someone that said, please don't fly today, and they didn't. They didn't get on one of the planes. There's some instinct there sometimes to listen to, and it's important to heed those instincts of safety and survival. The other side of the coin, though, is that embodied wisdom has a deeper knowing, because our body also learns from experience. We go from startled to learning about timing and rhythm and appropriateness. So with the lid, I could have been my typical self and been in a frenzy looking for the lid. Through that startled, fearful reflex of, oh my God, I'm doing it wrong again. How could I lose it? Instead, I was able to maintain a calm state. So this is just a reminder to remember we store memories in our body, not just our mind. Processing is embodying wisdom. When we expect ourselves to process everything immediately, that can't always happen. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes experience. There's a rhythm to that. We process through the memories. With the lid, I could have processed that through the memories of all the things I've lost. And I probably did in a way, because it was like what I had learned from all the things I have lost is that life works out. I either find it or we manage. We do it in a different way with lost things. So when we're processing, what we're doing is we're releasing what the body holds, and we strive to retain what serves us. And so I was glad that I retained, that it served me to understand that when I lose things, it will work out. I don't have to panic. So this rich network of neurons that affects our mood, it also affects our decision making. These gut feelings can arise quickly, and we can build and strengthen our invisible strength through this line of the prayer to embody our reactions with wisdom. We can cultivate this invisible wealth and our ability to sense the impulse from trauma or a deeper truth. Those life experiences that also teach us life is going to be okay. We can strengthen our ability to override intuitive wisdom from habitual responses. And there are 3 questions for this. When we sense something, we can ask, does this sensation point to my values or my fears? Am I grounding in my knowing or reacting to the past? You can do body scans. You can work on this by doing body awareness, taking walks in nature. I know some people will laugh, but it's like there's a reason people hug trees. Breath work is a great way to get in tune with the body so that you can listen to the body. And guess what? The lid showed up. It had fallen into the other lid, and I hadn't noticed. And it was a bigger lid, so the little lid fell into the bigger lid. And when I put it on the container, I didn't see that it was in there. Anyway, it worked out. The third wisdom I'm going to just cover briefly because it's the wisdom where most of us function, rational wisdom. And our aim here, this rational wisdom, is where we function. It recognizes patterns. This is where we make intentional choices. Here's where we can frame our reality and gain those skills to frame it with more clarity and with curiosity rather than judgment. I'm still working on my judgment, trust me. And being in rational wisdom, it's enhancing those skills to be without overwhelm, without overthinking, without feeling like you're trapped. And I could have felt trapped. I could have felt trapped when the paralegal said, I've never seen a handwritten trust before in my whole life. Let's see how you did. She said that. Let's see how you did. I'm like, okay, here we go. Let's see how I did. This rational wisdom helps us understand the deeper nature, and it gives language to our reactions and our heart wisdom. It's the place where we bring meaning to it with a language sort of way. And so the intention is to develop this inner wealth so that we're learning from experience without being trapped by it. And I was so grateful I was not trapped by my experience that day. I'm sure it took some processing for me to realize the purpose of those events and to articulate how my values, I could relate to them. As I saw myself as more of a worthy person, I related to the incidents in a different way. And so the questions to ask in developing this relational wisdom: what is nourishing the mind today? What thoughts do I feed myself? What meaning do I draw from this moment that sustains my being? So between the lid, the washer, meeting with the lawyer, I know where I kind of fell apart was, you know what, I had had so much. I had told my husband on the way home, and I know this isn't healthy to do, but it was like, just after today, I just want one little visi on our way home. I want one little drink just to settle down. There's my imperfection. But when we put these wisdoms together, it's helping us understand the why beneath our whats. We can get beyond the mental clutter to gain more meaningful insight. We can gain understanding and stand stronger in our purpose. And I have 2 more slides just to briefly talk about. One is what we need is inside of us. It's not about the other person. It's not about the experience outside of us. Give us this day our daily bread. We're embracing our ability to face life as it is. We're strengthening what's inside of us to balance ourselves, our wisdom, and to respond to others as equals. We're all human, and all of us have strengths and weaknesses. We've got to respond to the weaknesses of ourselves and others, and the strengths of ourselves and others. It's easy to look at a lawyer as someone in a hierarchical way, as someone more than you, better than you, as more worthy than you. When all that is they have legal skills that you don't have. Came to find out, my little trust that I did handwritten really only had a few minor mistakes. It was missing a key component for Arizona specifically because it was an online kit that I had done. And so she was going to fix that. So there's that affirmation that, we're all equal. Some people might know more about the law than you, but we each have a contribution to life. We all have strengths and weaknesses. So my terrible, horrible, very bad, no good day was a reminder. I had a meeting at the end of that day, and I'll tell you, my rational concentration was fading. I'm sure the one visi that I had didn't help either. So my memory, I couldn't remember all the specifics to answer all of the questions. And you know what? That's okay. I just want to share that when we're saying this line of the prayer, that we're asking to nourish our vitality, our resilience, and our ability to adapt what life brings. In our meeting, we were able to have heart connections. There was grief going on. And it was a great reminder for me of how the microbiome is this great metaphor for diversity, that it can strengthen our equality. And that we can realize that all of our differences come together to support all of us in healthy ways when we learn how to relate to each other. When inequality is far, far apart, we have a hard time relating to each other with heart wisdom. As we become more equal, relationships are easier. Thank you for listening this evening. Namaste, and until Wednesday.